Welcome to a City Voices spirituality group with our guest John Otieno from Kenya. John loves going out into the world of Kenya, into the wilds, and taking pictures of all the animals and the mountains and the streams. And he has a spiritual journey to share with us. So without further ado, John Otieno, take it away.
Mm, Thanks for that awesome introduction. Truly, I truly appreciate it. So, as you all know, my name is John Otieno Odhiambo. I think we've interacted with some of us. I've been attending some of the sessions that have been going on. It's only, I think, two. I have missed like two sessions previously because of some unavoidable circumstances. So at the moment, I'm staying in Nairobi, Kenya. I think it's most of you have heard about Kenya, so I'm in Nairobi at the moment. Right now it's almost 6:40 p.m. We've had like quite a day. One of my friends was moving houses, so I was out helping. Now I've settled in the home to attend this session. So without further ado, let me delve into the main topic of today. Don't worry, I might be confirming what I've written, like my talking points on my second screen. So don't be worried when I turn and face the other side. It's just like checking what I'm talking about. So I want to express my deepest thanks to the organizers for inviting me to speak and for each one of you for having joined today's session. I hope it will be a grateful one and an interactive one. So, about my personal journey into spirituality, let me say, like, it began like quite some years ago, like the journey about discovering my spirituality. Let me say in as much as I've been brought up in a Christian family, the virtue of me following up my own spiritual journey began like 6 years ago when I first joined campus. That's when I focused mainly on discovering my spirituality, considering that I had evaluated the other spirituality that I was being like brought into and probably saw that maybe it wasn't aligning with what I intended to. So I took an initiative of discovering my own spirituality and charting my own path. So to me, spirituality is not only a belief, but a practice that guides my day-to-day activity. Just as an Let me say, just as an introduction to what spirituality, like how I believe spirituality is supposed to mean, is recognizing the difference between spirituality and religion, which can be a great way to begin to understand that spirituality means to different people. So there are many types of spirituality that people sometimes base their beliefs around, and also many different reasons people practice spirituality. So it's something that is usually debatable and commonly misunderstood, considering that most people confuse spirituality with religion and so bring pre-existing beliefs about the impact of religion to most of the discussions about spirituality. Even though religion emphasizes spirituality as being an important part of faith, it's possible to be spiritual without necessarily being a part of an organized religious community. So on my end, I've been brought up like my family was primarily a Christian-based family. So while discovering life, like getting to meet other people, getting to know the society as a whole, you find that maybe the values that other people hold towards, let's say, the activities that we carry out and how we interact with each other might be different to what maybe you personally hold. So that's one way of, let's say, developing your own spirituality. And that is what maybe has made me chart my own path in discovering my spirituality. So, just a moment. So as I've said, the spirituality might be a broad term and encompasses our search for meaning, purpose, and connection beyond just ourselves. And it's deeply personal and it's deeply personal and can vary greatly from one individual to another. So the diversity is what makes spirituality so rich and inclusive. And it's whether it's through religious faith, meditation, yoga, or a walk in the park. So each practice that I've mentioned offers a unique path to the inner peace and understanding. So as for me, as Dan has said, I'm more connected to nature than any other thing else. So I think my spirituality, I can say that my spirituality is more connected to the natural aspect of the society. Like I believe in nature so much, and I believe that just like it's always said like our actions are like a reflection of our surroundings. So like when you destroy your environment, you end up like destroying your spirituality. So I believe like my spirituality is tied to the natural aspect of the world. So I basically like try to cultivate it every time, to water it and to make it grow so that I impact those people that are around me. So let me focus on the role of spirituality in my daily life. So, uh, in my experience, spirituality has been a compass that helps navigate the complexities of life. Yeah, it offers a framework for making ethical decisions and finding direction. And during the times of loss or hardships, my spiritual practices have provided solace and strength. They remind me that every challenge is an opportunity for growth and transformation. I think this statement resonates with whatever has been happening to my life recently. I don't think you know, but there has been a shift in, let's say, the recently we had elections in Kenya. It was in 2022. So there was a shift in the government that was there before, and then a new government came in. So the government has been that tough on most of the companies operating over here, especially on the tax system and just how the companies of the organizations operate. So companies have recently most of the international operating companies have decided to to wind down the operations in Kenya and seek other countries that maybe have better operating environment like and offer like better tax regimes. So it has been hard over here considering that most of the people have been laid off. It's been tough, like getting most like families losing their sources of income, like a whole community being impacted simply because a company that was uplifting the whole community, getting like stopping the operations and moving to another country. So I think especially it's been hard. So the spiritual practices that I personally uphold and those that around me uphold have provided solace and strength, especially in this kind of rough patch of this rough patch. So they remind us that every challenge that we face is an opportunity, maybe for growth and transformation into something better. So, like engaging in spiritual conversations. So, starting a conversation about spirituality can be as simple as asking, "What brings you peace?" or "How do you find meaning with your life?" These questions usually open doors to a deeper understanding of who we are and what we intend to achieve in our lives. So let's say someone asks me, what brings me peace? I can say like seeing other people like living their life, living fulfilled life is what brings me peace. And so what I find, what brings meaning to my life is like just impacting the society in a positive manner. Um, I've grown, let's say, like as you all know, probably where we are coming from, maybe we are disadvantaged in some way, probably economically, socially. So there are some instances that you need to like work hard and ensure that you get those that are around you out of maybe that particular problem that you see, and also ensure that the whole society that you are coming from uh, don't have to face the same challenges that you faced while growing up. So, um, apart from that, I don't think there is more about me spiritually, but maybe I can just share stories about how, like, my life where like the uh, uh, sorry, like how I grew up and how like at the moment I am. I say something.
No, thumbs up, thumbs up.
Oh,
We want to hear your stories about your family and everything.
oh, okay. So, okay, let me delve a little bit about my personal life and my upbringing up to where I am. So, the seventh born in a family of, we are quite a large number of siblings, so don't be surprised about the figure that I'm about to mention. So, in total, we are 13 siblings from our family, one dad and one mom. So my dad used to work as he was a production assistant in a company, in a sugar company, which is based in Bungoma. It's one of the towns that is in Kenya. And my mom, I think she used to work hard to being the housewife to my dad. So yeah, her main activity was bringing us up in an holistic manner and ensuring that we are disciplined. So we've grown like me and the family that I've grown with, we've we've been close for quite like all those years. I still have all the siblings that like there is none that has passed. Like we are all there, so we've grown together. We are close. Most of them have focused their careers on the bioscience aspect of life. So it's only me, I think, that decided to venture into the IT world. Probably it's because I don't know. It's said that most of the IT people have poor social skills. So I guess I evaluated my social skills and found out that I'm poor at social skills. So that's why IT had to call me. So at the moment, we are like basically staying in Nairobi, but we are staying in Nairobi, but the where we come from, it's a town in Kenya. It's called Kisumu. So maybe you've heard about it, but it's a town in Kisumu. It's like 8 hours drive from Nairobi. So most of the weekends, whenever I'm not around, I usually like drive there to at least see the rest of the family members who like my mother and my smaller siblings who are there. What else am I missing? Am I missing something?
Are you a middle child? How old are the other siblings?
Oh, okay. The first child in our family is 40. I think it's 43 years. So that is the firstborn in the family, and the youngest is 13. That's quite a gap, I know. So, I think the only reason why maybe my parents decided to have quite a large number of kids is because they also came from a family that had a lot of kids. Like in my grandmother's family, in my dad's family, they were 27. it's quite a large, yeah, there are 27. Unfortunately, most of, like almost all of them died. There are only like two, my dad and one of her sisters. So they're the only surviving members of that family. So I think that's what pushed probably my parents to have quite a large number of family, considering that during that time, the survival, it's called the mortality rate was quite, it was low. Can I say low or high? So the survival rate was kind of low. So that's why probably they had to have quite a large number of kids. As for me, I'm still single. I haven't found the perfect person to settle with. I don't know if that's the right excuse. I know it's an excuse, but do we say I haven't like found someone to settle with. I'm still focusing on my career and personal well-being, but hopefully in some few years to come, before I probably turn 50 or 60, I'll have settled down with someone.
All right, you guys. Thank you, John. That was really beautiful. So now I'm gonna call now Tiffany, can you help me out here? Yes, thumbs up. You want me to lead this or you want to co?
I think there's a small enough number. I'm gonna let you go ahead and do it.
Okay, all right. But feel free to just jump in if you want.
Absolutely.
All right, John. So ah, um tell us about the wilderness in Kenya. Is it are you mentioned a company's dropping out of a company dropped out of Kenya, took a lot of jobs, but are there still companies in there that are like destroying the natural landscape of Kenya and like endangering the trees and the animals and the rivers and et cetera, et cetera? Can you tell us about that?
About companies that are, let's say, impacting the environment in a negative way, there are quite a lot of companies, considering that in Kenya and generally in Africa, the organizations tasked with ensuring that probably the environment is taken care of, and let's say companies do not dispose wastes into rivers, lakes. They have not been given that much power. So most of the time, companies like just bypass them, and when they are caught, probably they just bribe the the people in charge of that. So there are quite a lot of companies doing so at the moment, but also we have let me. It's not like I'm talking bad about our president, but it's kind of like the person that we elected recently is not like the president we intended. It's someone like a dealer. That I think he's a dealer, to be honest. If a company approaches those in government with quite like an offer to, let's say, to set up a company, they'll just look uh, they just look the other way and allow the company to operate without even taking the environmental impact assessment into consideration. So there are quite a large number of companies that are operating and destroying the environment. However, something that I can commend the government about is their approach towards taking care of the wildlife. As it's common knowledge that Nairobi, the capital city of Kenya, is the only country that has a national park within within its let's say like Nairobi has it's the only capital city with a national park. So it's quite a big park. It has all the animals that you can imagine, except those that maybe the polar bears and the tigers. I haven't seen them over here yet, but all the other animals like the elephants, the lions, and all Probably all the big fives are found here, and also like Kenya is also a country that it has several parks, not only in Nairobi, like the parks are scattered all over. So it's a nice place you can adventure when you decide to adventure, because in as much as the driving distance are quite, they're not that much. The maximum hours you can take to drive across Kenya, let's say, is 14 hours. So it's not that much. So you can access anywhere you want in the shortest time possible.
All right. Now I have a lot of questions just personally for John and, my curiosity about Kenya and Africa and where he lives and everything like that. But this is not about me, you guys. If you guys have any questions or comments for John, now is the time. Just unmute yourself.
So, who knows? One of these days I might be in Kenya, and I'm gonna call John and say, let's hang out. But how is the hospitality over there? Like, do you guys can you guys hear me? Okay, you hear me? Okay. The hospitality. Do you in let's say your friends or your relatives or your close one, they come up from afar. Do you host them? How 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 do you guys handle guests? That's what I'm trying to ask.
Oh, okay. We are quite hospitable. Mm, Kenya is quite hospitable, and all the people, like most of the people, are friendly. I can't talk about everyone, considering that each one of us has their own characteristics and behaviors. But most of the people are hospitable. The people are friendly, and like it's quite easy navigating in Kenya, considering that it's a country that people are also exposed to other cultures. Um, let me say, like, Kenya is one of, like, it's a economic hub it's one of the economic hubs in Africa. So most of the international companies have some of the operating bases around here, and like Kenya is very hospitable, and its people are good people. So whenever you plan on visiting Kenya, just be sure that you'll find a very great environment that you will definitely enjoy.
Perfect.
Any other questions or comments, you guys? Because I'm just like full of those, full of those questions. But go ahead, Tanisha.
Yeah. John, you said you work in IT. Like what do you do in IT?
For the moment, I've been doing freelance activities. The company that I used to work in folded its operations in Kenya. So at the moment, I'm doing most of app development, websites development, and also like doing at the moment. I've been contracted by someone to do technical analysis on some of the company. It's a web development company, so I'm doing the technical analysis and ensuring that the client needs are met by the company. So my typical day entails like meeting with the companies that want the apps to be developed. I take all their needs and address it to the company. Probably, let me say, like, I'm the middle person who ensures that the technical terms of IT are understood by the clients, and that the client understands the requirements, that the app requirements that maybe they need to be they need to be developed, like what the company needs to give their clients, like the end product. So like at the moment, I'm the in-between person.
Okay. And okay, now we got the work stuff. And so you said that your spirituality is based a lot in nature. Could you tell me like one of the spiritual practices or something that you do just to kind of bring nature, more into you so that you can, a spiritual practice that you do in nature, I guess, an example.
Okay, so one of the spiritual practices that I do like find myself connecting with nature is just like meditating. So usually most of the weekends whenever like I'm around there, at the moment I live like an hour away from Nairobi. So I decided to move to this place considering that it's quite like a natural place. It's the like it has a lot of trees, the vegetation and everything. It hasn't like been exploited with people. So most of the time, whenever like I feel overwhelmed or anything, I just like go out, experience nature, hear the sounds of nature talking to me. So it just makes me relax and connect to nature. So most of the time, like I usually strive like at least each day to interact with nature, just get out of the house, go take a walk around, listen to the streams flowing, listen to the birds, listen to the voices made in the forest, and just like connect with nature as such. So that's what I usually do.
Okay, thank you.
So John, you
Harvey?
mentioned that you meditate.
Yeah,
What
I
have
do.
you discovered in meditation for yourself?
Mm, at the moment, I can say there is a saying that I've, I think I discovered it recently. It's called Q Sera Sera. It's a Spanish thing, I say. So whatever will be, will be. So I've just decided to flow with life, like just like a stream, flowing with life. Whatever life throws at me, I just flow on with it. I believe that there is a time maybe the stream is at its fastest, and also there is a time maybe the stream is at it's just like relaxed. So I just flow on with life at the moment.
Beautiful. Thank you, John.
Okay, welcome.
Kira?
Hi, very nice to meet you. I'm very sorry I was late today. I wish, I mean, I will go back and hear what you said in the beginning.
Okay.
I don't know. Have you been to the United States?
Not
No,
yet.
because I just was going to be curious about your experience of the difference, yeah, I mean, there's, I just would imagine that there's,
But
pros and cons about each place, I guess.
I've been there virtually.
You have not been here by choice?
But virtually, like
Oh,
I've been to
virtually. You've
Kenya
been here virtually. Yeah,
virtually.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I also wanted to say, and I just I can't think of things today. There's a woman who she had severe brain injury. If this rings a bell to anybody, because she's done like TED Talks. She's been on the internet a lot, and she had maybe a severe stroke or something. I think she lost um, like use
You're
of half
speaking
her
of
brain.
Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor.
Yes,
Yes, My Stroke of Insight
right,
was her book.
exactly.
Mhm.
Thank you. And one thing that struck me was that she feels like she's gone to like a sort of higher plane in existence, and she spends a lot of time alone in nature. She spends it, just what you were saying, John, made me think of that. I mean,
All
do you,
right.
yeah, no, I mean, is that, do you feel, um, more connected in nature than you do
Yes.
around humans or people? Yeah.
Oh, okay. So most of the time, like a typical day of mine, besides working, like I'm usually alone most of the time. So I usually like find myself better when I'm alone compared to when I'm with people. So that's why I usually like take time to engage in nature. As most of the time, like I'm usually alone. I feel at my best when I'm alone, probably in nature or just alone. So I think that is just me for the moment. So yeah.
Tiffany?
Thank you. Thank you, but thank you. I appreciate that a lot, and it's not just you. You know, I'm learning about a number of other people who feel like who feel the same way that you do.
Okay.
Go ahead, Tiffany.
You know, I was just listening and wanting to find the right question for you, but it gets answered. Like sometimes if we just sit back and just wait, because I was like and I want to highlight that for you all, because I was like, what are you gonna do with the company leaving? And that's of course going to affect the economy. It's gonna affect you know, we can see even in the US since COVID and the economy changed, the crime has gone up. You see more packages being stolen from people's porches. People are, all of this stuff. And I really like the que sera, sera, because I really feel like I wonder is as you're looking at what's in front of you there in Kenya right now, with everything that you've told us. Is that kind of the approach you're going to take moving forward because we know when the economy changes, things change.
Yeah, sure.
So and it can be very, you can want to do something about it, and so, or let it, drag you down. Are you going to take the que sera, sera approach moving forward now with this? Like, how does that look for you?
Yeah, I can say at the first time, like when I got, like, it's been the first time I've been jobless for the whole of my life. So that time when I first got the termination letter, I was like, hey, this is the end of me. What will I really do? What's next after this? So I actually took a whole weekend off, like off everything. I shut down everything, my computers, my phone, everything. I went out. Actually, it was part of, I took it like camping. I said, let me just go interact with nature. Let me camp. But deep down, I was like questioning myself, like, what will I do? What next? What will I like? How will the bills get paid? And then I just took a weekend off and off everything. I just went and like meditated, focused on like. When I came back, I just said like, whatever will be, will be. I am just like pressing forward. So after accepting my situation, I actually like decided to get other things to do. I never knew that I could just DIY somebody's like I can be let me say a tree shed mechanic. I never knew that. It came as an opportunity when I was actually like just outside chilling and then somebody's car broke. I told him like, what's the problem? So that time I couldn't imagine I can make somebody's car. From that in the particular person, I've got like 3 people who maybe had issues with their car. I've helped them and gotten like something in my pocket. So like I'm probably like diversifying other ways of probably getting like getting on with life.
Yes, that's great. Diversify. I love it. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
John, in your observation, in your part of Kenya, maybe in Nairobi, or anywhere else you've been around Kenya, Can you discuss with us, just what you observed, or maybe you know something more about are there any racial or religious tensions in Kenya that you can talk about? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So primarily Kenyan is a is a Christian country. So most of the people are Christians. So there has been some issues recently, especially like we are bordering like Somalia on our like Somalia is one of the countries that borders. So there has been an influx of people from Somali moving into Kenya and settling in Nairobi. So there has been some tension, religious tensions, especially in the northeastern part of Kenya, whereby the Christians are being persecuted, especially by the Somali people who are mostly like settled in the northeastern part of Kenya. So actually there has been attacks on people, especially the Christians who are crisscrossing the northeastern parts of Kenya. So actually it caused some tensions a while back, but at the moment I think there has been cohesive measures whereby the government is ensuring that people live in a cohesive way, people live in a harmonious manner, especially in those parts. About religion, in like in Nairobi and the surrounding areas, it's not that much, but there are a little bit, especially like it's isolated incidences whereby you find that someone maybe is being discriminated due to probably their religious practices. Racial discrimination, there are some places where it's being like it's happening in Kenya. So like in Kenya previously, let's say before independence, there are some areas whereby were specifically set aside for people of specific races, like let me say, just mention towns in Nairobi, like in Parklands, it was mostly set aside for the Asians to live, the Asians, people from India and all like the Asian countries. And in another area like let's say Karen and Runda, mostly I can say the whites are the ones who are settled there. So there are some instances whereby when you traverse such areas, probably you go to parklands where the Asians live and maybe want to do business with them, you find that you can't like do anything, considering that they consider you like an outsider. So you can't even like rent a house there or just do anything over there. So there are kind of like such events that are happening, but it's not that quite pronounced, considering that there is quite a backlash whenever such thing like gets into the limelight. So it's practiced like it's not practiced openly, but it's there. Yeah.
Well, if does anyone have anything they want to say, or a question or a comment? Because I've got some more percolating. La 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 la. Uh, Andrew, what about you?
Sure. I'm a person living with a mental health condition. I have schizophrenia, and I was just wondering what people in your country think about people with mental health condition or mental illness.
Sure. Mental issue in Kenya has been, let me say, it hasn't been addressed previously it wasn't like being addressed in a serious manner. Most of the mentally ill people were usually like considered like outcasts in the society, and most of them like were just left to handle themselves on their own means. However, especially in the work, like considering that the Kenya is like it wants to compete with its peers on an international scale, there has been focus on mental well-being, because most of the companies at the moment have departments specifically dedicated to handle the mental health well-being of individuals in that particular organization where they're working. And also the company, no, the government has set up a lot of mental well-being institutions across the country. Previously, there were conditions that maybe were affecting people mentally that probably we were not aware of. But right now, considering that it's an interconnected world, at least we get to know and probably manage people with mental health well-being in a better way than before.
Andrew, any follow-ups? No? Okay. How about you, Harvey?
Well, actually, Kira was first, so I would give that to Kira first.
He's a gentleman and a scholar, you guys.
Thank
Kira,
you,
go ahead.
Harvey. I don't know what to say. I'm not used to gentlemanliness these days. No, John, and again, I don't know if you talked about this in the beginning when I missed it, but like, so I say, humans are pack animals. And then I know some people who consider themselves more lone wolves, like they just prefer to be in nature. And I wonder about them, and I wonder with you, do you think your like penchant for being alone with nature is more because of things that have happened to you or that you've experienced, or do you think that like you were sort of born more with like the lone wolf genes?
Okay. I think being a lone wolf didn't come like I wasn't born with it. It happened like when I was growing up. I grew up in a family that we weren't like well off, and also like the family that I come from, it's quite a large, like we are quite many. So there are these instances whereby you find that people just pick on you because probably you aren't like you're coming from a family that isn't well off, or probably they're picking up on you because you're coming from a family that's probably they consider it big than normal. So I from then, like I usually like I just decided to be doing things myself, and I think it just grew up with me from that time. So I can't say that I was born like being a lone ranger. So it's something that came along. The society forced me to be a lone ranger. Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Harvey.
So John, I will lower my hand. So John, I just brought up the map of Kenya and noticed that you're surrounded by Uganda, Somalia, Tanzania, which I actually visited Tanzania at one point in my life. Never got up to Kenya, and also Ethiopia. And I'm just wondering how you compare your country's stability to the other countries that are surrounding you.
Yeah, okay. So at the moment, Kenya is it's very stable security-wise, and security-wise, economically, we are not that stable for the moment, considering the recent changes. The only region that has been affected mostly is Somalia, due to terrorism and just acts of violence. So the other country that probably had some issues is, you've forgotten about Southern Sudan. South Sudan, it's just above Kenya. When you look at the map, it's a country, actually it's a country that hasn't been stable for quite a while. And it's one of the, let's say, the most recent independent country. It gained independence recently. I think it was in 2012, 2013, thereabout. So it's mostly South Sudan and Somalia that hasn't been stable, like their security-wise and such. But Kenya, we consider ourselves okay. Yeah.
Very good. Okay, thank you.
This is like a super chill conversation, you guys. This is really sweet. I'm feeling like the peace. Oh, look at this. Tiffany has her hand up. Go ahead, Tiffany.
Do you wonder if, because when I hear of the other countries that you speak of and I line them up along Kenya or the other countries, do you wonder if it's because, and forgive any misstep here, but do you wonder if it's because Kenya kind of has the tourist factor? And I say that in air quotes because they have the Maasai people there that people like to go and watch them jump and this and do you wonder if it's because, and I say it because it's something that can be taken, if you understand, in a very bitter fashion, but it's something that can also be taken in a if we look at it from just a human competition level, it can be like, that's a good thing, they're winning. But then when you look at the destabilization around it, then the bitter factor comes in. Because I wonder, it's like, so Kenya can entertain, so they're going to get a little more stability and not bothered as much. And that's just coming from an American standpoint, where it's like, as long as we're entertaining you here, then so that's my question. Do you wonder if it's that, and how do you feel about your conclusion?
I can say, like, the stability that has been, let's say, that we are enjoying over here. I can't majorly like put it on the tourism aspect. I think it's also the people who are in Kenya. In Kenya, we are quite like people who believe in togetherness. In as much as we are divided by the tribe within the tribal lines, when it comes to our country, we usually like defend it to the best of our abilities. If you are in the Twitter space, you might find that maybe you have engaged with people, probably the banters about countries, and you find that you can just search it. Probably it's something called like Kenyans on Twitter. Those people are very ruthless whenever it comes to about Kenya. Like, if someone speaks negatively about Kenya and they get to hear it, they will flood to that person's probably account, even if it's YouTube or their social media accounts, to express their feelings to that person.
Mm-hmm.
And usually, like, they're not usually that kind of people to, let's say, it's the stability that we're enjoying is because of us, the people,
Mm-hmm.
like the will to ensure that we maintain the stability in our nation, considering
Kenya,
that.
sorry for
Okay,
the interruption.
okay.
Sorry for the
Go on.
interruption. Go ahead.
No
I'm sorry.
No, just go on.
No, they're Kenyans first.
Yeah, Kenyans first.
And everything else is second. Tribe is second, religion is second, everything else is second. I get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
it's Kenya
Mm-hmm.
first. So, because most of the time you might find that there are, let's say, clashes within the country, but people do come, like, they stay above their tribal lines and just get together and ensure that the country remains stable, considering that if the country is unstable, everyone loses out. So it's us to ensure that the country is stable, and it's like a win-win situation. We make the country stable, and we also enjoy like the benefits that come together with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Tanisha.
Hi, John, I do have a question about like substance use in Kenya. Like how would you say that is, and how is that handled or you know dealt with? Like as you spoke of what like with mental health, sometimes they can run hand in hand and sometimes you know often separate. But how is that handled so far as like in community and as in government? You know, supports, or is it, you know, something that's like we pretend like that's not here, or is it something that is being addressed?
Oh, okay, sure. So substance use, it's drug and substance use, it's quite an issue in Kenya. And recently there has been, let's say, government initiatives to handle drugs and substance use. So there has been some, especially like in Kenya, drugs such as, it's called marijuana, it's banned in Kenya. So I don't, there are other drugs, let's say it's called hat. It's in our country we usually refer it as mira. It's called hat. So it's a mild stimulant. So there has been also debates recently from the government about banning it, considering that most of the youths have been affected. The drug is quite cheap. It's very affordable to most of the people. And let's say people spend a lot of time using drugs than engaging in meaningful activities. So you'll find that in a community, instead of people engaging in probably work and ensure that they get income to make them live, they focus on using drugs. So this issue is quite common in the coastal regions where there is a lot of tourism activities. There is tourism activities. So drugs is easily accessible from other countries. As people come move into Kenya, they move in with the drugs. So I think the issue stems from the fact that Kenya has a lot of porous borders. The border control in our country is not that, it's not that stringent. So it's quite easy to sneak in drugs and other substances that are banned, which may end up impacting other people's like well-being. And I think that the drugs that usually like impact let's say the drugs that have direct relations to individuals' mental well-being, most of them have been banned in Kenya. Most of them like they're illegal to use in Kenya. So I think it's it's a positive step from the government to ensure that at least the mental health well-being is maintained, especially those that maybe come about by using drugs that have an impact on the mental health well-being. Yeah.
Any follow-ups, Tanisha?
No, thank you. That answered my question. Thank you.
So John, you mentioned that your father's family had 27 siblings, is that right?
Yes, yes.
And that only 2 survived. So I'm just, if you want to share, like, what happened to the 25 folks?
Mm, uh, I can't be so positive about it. Like, usually, like when we were growing up, we were that family who probably were considered like, my dad wasn't that well off, so most of the time we were usually like put out of like we never used to interact with the other people from his family because they used to consider him like a poor person. Don't need to interact with a poor person. So most of them like died. We just got to hear that they are dead. So most of the time it was my dad who used to attend probably their burials and such. So I can't be sure about how they probably if they got sick and died or something. I only know about 2 who are my favorites. One of them died due to She was sick, yeah, so she died. And the other one, he was involved in an accident and died. So the others, I don't know, and like I don't know a lot of information about them.
So they didn't have access to health care.
They did have access to healthcare.
Oh,
Yeah,
and it just wasn't adequate?
yeah, it wasn't adequate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Harvey, go ahead.
Unmute myself first. Thank you, Tanisha, for bringing up mental health and substance abuse. I'm curious how Kenya got through COVID, and if there's any still lasting effects of HIV and AIDS in Kenya.
Okay. During the COVID time, I think we were greatly affected, considering that Kenya is a consumer nation. We depend on most of the time on imports from other countries to survive. So when the supply chains were disrupted and everything, we had to, I think we had to enhance local production of products that we used to import before. So I think I can attribute to our survival during COVID to our innovativeness. We had to innovate, mostly like the products that were disrupted, when the supply chains were disrupted, we had to innovate and ensure that we keep on getting the products that we used to import before COVID and during the COVID. So during the COVID time, there were lockdowns in the country, there were curfews, like people never used to move during the night times, and some of the towns like Nairobi and the neighboring towns were locked, like people couldn't move in and out of the town. So we survived that way for almost like a year. About HIV and AIDS, I think it has been managed well in Kenya, even though there are a lot of cases of the particular disease in Kenya, but it has been managed well. Right now, it's hard to know someone who has HIV/AIDS and someone who doesn't, considering that the healthcare has improved and also there is easy access to the antiretroviral drugs for people living with HIV and AIDS. So I think it is there, but it's about practicing safe living, considering that HIV and AIDS usually in our country it's spread through through behaviors like sexual behaviors which are uncontrolled. So when someone controls their urge, I think they can easily survive. They cannot like get the disease.
Thank you. So I don't know, in the US, in fact, this is the month of what we call Pride Week, Pride Month,
yeah,
for gays and homosexuals and lesbians and queer and all of that. Do you have anything like that happening in your country?
Not really. I think the LGBTQ IA community is not, they haven't like been fully embraced in Kenya. There is a lot of, I can say like the Kenyan community hasn't like fully embraced them, and they face a lot of issues, considering that maybe when people are found that they are members of LGBTQIA community, they may face prejudice from other people and such. But however, there are people who have come out openly to express their sexuality, and it's usually like a nice thing, like someone getting out to like proudly talk about their sexuality and like accept themselves as who they are. So also the government hasn't like outlawed like LGBTQIA community. So it's something that it's there in our community. It's only that the Kenyan society hasn't like fully embraced it.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Go ahead, Kira.
John, are there friendship benches in Kenya? I mean, I've read that in, various countries throughout the world, there's, they're trying to have this program with, friendship benches where just anybody who sits down on them, talks to the other person who's sitting on it about, mental health or life. Does that exist in Kenya?
Not yet. It doesn't
Not
exist.
yet.
Yeah.
Not here either.
Hi, John. So,
Hi.
you mentioned like many social issues in Kenya. So, how about the prevalence of the peer workforce, like peer support? How useful they are, how prevalent, about the how prevalent of the practice of the profession in Kenya.
Okay. About peer support, it isn't like quite a common thing in Kenya. However, there are like places, let's say in institutions, there are those communities whereby people come together to support each other. And also there are several online spaces in Kenya whereby people like peer support spaces in like which are online based. So people come together, they share their issues. So it isn't like on physical aspect, it's not like that much, except in institutions and communities whereby probably let's say churches decide to form peer support groups to help people in the community, or maybe schools decide to form peer support groups to help other people. It's not quite a common practice, but it's there. And also about the professional aspect, there are institutions that are teaching about peer support and such. It's one of the professional qualifications in Kenya that one can decide to pursue. So I think it's a growing field, and we are hopeful for the best in the near future.
Great. Tiffany?
I like that question you asked, Hong. And when I listen to what you say, and I think about I've met a few people from that region, from Kenya, Somalia. They've immigrated to a part of California called San Jose, which is not that far from the bridge you have back there behind you. And when I think about the peer support aspect and I hear all that you say, I wonder if peer support is just something that is outside of professional. With what you've said and what I've seen, isn't it just kind of part of the community?
It is part of the community, yes, but also like there are, let's say, professionals whereby people pursue, and it's like part of like peer support, it's part of it. So I can say peer support in Kenya, it's part of the community and also like part of the professional aspects of some of the people maybe who are pursuing courses that are related to the same.
And so you're now making it a profession, kind of innovating and diversifying. Yeah.
Yeah, because there are companies, let's say, that are recruiting people specifically to undertake let's say, like peer support. Maybe someone is knocking. Don't worry about it. Also, there are some companies that are probably like focusing on getting people to handle the peer support aspect of their employee well-being. So I think it's part of the professional aspect of in such a setting.
And John, what is Kenyan television like? I mean, what kind of propaganda does the television feature that's regularly played to sort of influence the population? For example, in the 1980s here in the USA, there was this big war on drugs. And there was all kinds of commercials about, just say no and this is your brain on drugs. Is there anything like that on Kenyan TV?
Uh, Recently, there haven't been a lot of commercials. I really can't say it authoritatively, considering that my space is usually like YouTube. So I really can't authoritatively speak about that. I haven't like, it's been quite a while since I actually watched like a whole TV program. I'm usually like on YouTube and other streaming sites. So
Do you
I
remember
can't.
what television was like when you were a child?
Yes, I do.
Do you remember, was there any repetitive propaganda from the yes, tell us about it.
At that time, when I was growing up, it was usually about. At that time, the issue on HIV and AIDS was rampant. So most of the time, the let's say the commercial that was being aired, most of the time it was about the protection used during sexual intercourse. So there was this commercial that was promoting the use of contraceptive. It's called Trust. I will share the link with you in a moment. So it used to run a lot, like most of the time, and that particular commercial was kind of like it was controversial considering how it was being put out. They were using terms that were easily relatable. Let's say like someone is holding out a contraceptive. Most of the time it was a condom. So, and they say, I have mine, do you have yours? So it used to resonate with a lot of people. So when we were growing up, we as children, like we got to like memorize the adverts. So you find that children are playing outside, and then they just out of the blues they ask each other like, I have mine, do you have yours? So it was quite like something probably people took offense with, but yeah, that was the time when that used to air. For the moment, it's not that much.
Yes, contraception is effective in helping to prevent sexually transmitted diseases, but it's also effective in controlling unwanted pregnancies. Do you find that Kenyan government is trying to control population growth?
Not really, considering that people still are not like, they haven't like taken up the idea of using contraceptives, especially those that it's called the ones that people inject in them, or yeah, the family planning method. There, let's say like the church. There are some churches that do not allow the congregants to use such methods to in practice in family planning practices. So I think the government hasn't like stepped up in probably ensuring population control through the use of contraceptives. It's
Is
simply because, pardon?
I'm sorry, is abortion legal there?
Uh, it's not fully legal, but there are organizations that advocate for abortion. Let's say like marriage stops. It calls for plan. It's called like um, you can decide to be a parent when you want to be, and it's not like you are forced to be a parent. So organizations like marriage stops mm, do undertake abortions, but considering that they are operating legally in Kenya, so I believe like the practice is not illegal.
Do you personally, would you like to be a daddy? Would you like to have a family of your own? Is that a priority for you?
It's not a priority at the moment, but probably in the near future.
All right. So we have about 14 minutes left. If I'll does anyone have any questions or comments for John? If not, we can just we can just do a check-in with everyone. So let's give ourselves a couple minutes to see if anything comes up spiritually for anyone. So we might be in silence for a minute or so. Let's see what happens. All right, let's check in with everyone. Tanisha, how you doing? How you feeling?
I just came up with something.
Oh, go ahead, Harvey.
John, do you have communities that support spirituality?
Not yet. We don't have such communities around.
Mm. So each person who's doing their spirituality is not forming community at this point.
I'm not sure about everyone, but where I am, there isn't such a community. So most of we are just focused on pursuing our spirituality alone.
So if you speak of that with other people, are you treated like an oddball?
Pardon?
Are you treated as being strange or unusual in your community when you speak of some of these spiritual values and ideas?
Okay. The conversation about spirituality, it's usually like a hard topic for most of the people. So probably when you speak to someone else, they'll start to wonder what you are trying to bring about. So most of the time, you just usually try to explore your spirituality alone. And there are some pertinent questions that you might ask someone about their spirituality, and probably they take it in the wrong way. So you just try to flow along with probably those who maybe are like-minded with what you have. So yeah, there aren't communities, but probably I might try and get some people who probably have the same idea spiritually with what I have, and probably form a community with them.
Mm-hmm. So,
Right.
there was one. I'll have to speak.
All right. So we have about 10 minutes left. Let's just check in. I'm going to ask you a question and you have 1 minute to answer. Tanisha, how you doing? How you feeling?
I'm doing well, feeling good.
All right. Andrew, how are you doing? How you feeling?
Sorry about that. I'm doing good. Glad it's Saturday. Had a busy week. Next week's going to be really hard on me because our team leader's out. So I got to be team leader for a week. So that's going to be a lot of stress. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to me for being a team leader for a change. Besides that, doing well, keeping busy. Actually, I do have a question for him. I was thinking, and I was a bit hesitant to ask it at one point. It's kind of a loaded question, but I'm pretty curious. And I know it varies greatly from person to person. I was just wondering about your thoughts about America and Donald Trump and things like that.
Okay. America is a great country. Donald Trump, I think he's a visionary leader. Even though his ideas maybe might seem out of the world, but I think he's a good leader. I don't know if it will resonate with others in the group, but he's a good person to take America where it's supposed to be, rather than the current president.
All right, that was a loaded question. And rather than sparking all of our intense feelings about that, let's keep going with the check-in. Helen Newman, you just arrived. Are you there?
I'm here, and I
How are you?
also put myself in the picture. I think you should see me, but whatever.
How are you
I'm glad.
feeling? How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I mean, I was yesterday at a celebration for gay and lesbian and transgender people, and this was like a dinner in the Y, the local Y. I had to pay for it, which is lovely. That I feel that I can give of myself at least I can pay. And the dinner was cold, but it was still tasty. It was kosher from the local Riverdale.
1 minute, 1 minute. We don't have much time, Helen. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so basically I'm celebrating my daughter is gay and her partner is, so that was a celebration. I was not with them, but it's called Allies, Allies, Allies of Gay People. So that was the celebration, and it was with the congregation of the area.
All right, thank you, Helen. Kira, how are you doing? How are you feeling?
I'm okay, tired, but I'm very glad I came to this meeting. I don't know, it sort of makes me think of, I really liked hearing John talk, and it just makes me think of sort of like the universality of, yin yang and pros and cons. Like it's just seems like there's pros and cons wherever we are in this world. So there's something universal and connective about that to me.
All right, Harvey, how are you doing? How are you feeling?
Well, I'm feeling wonderful. I told you my experience yesterday was really wonderful. And I just remembered what I wanted to say. I put in the chat the title of the book that I've been really studying very deeply with a number of people. And I hope if you want to check it out, it's in the chat. It's called Radical Wholeness. And it talks about spirituality on a very, very human and holistic level. And I find it to be a really good read.
All right, thank you for that, Harvey. Tiffany, how are you doing? How are you feeling?
I am absolutely giddy at this point right now because, Dan, as I told you, I love it when a little bit of drama is on the buffet. Okay. I love, Andrew, that you brought that question up because it makes us have to look at that yin and yang. It makes us have to see ourselves from an external perspective. It makes us have to really get in there with everything that we talked about and pull it together. I love a little hit of the drama, Andrew. Thank you. I want to thank you, John, because I love the triggers because we need that. So I feel seen, I feel excited. And what you also have to understand is I come from a perspective when I say these things, I don't like any president. Okay. So but I do like watching humans do things. So I feel very nourished right now.
All
Something I like about this group is I can ask a loaded question, something I'm really curious about, and that I'm able to do that. And thank you.
Yeah.
All right, now finally we have Hung. How are you doing, Hung? How are you feeling?
Yeah, very pumped, energetic. It's the weekend, so something to look forward to.
All right, well, God bless you. John Otieno, could you can we get your camera back on? John, you're muted.
Sorry, I'm here.
Okay, John, so I'm going to ask you to close this out. Give us give us anything in the next 2 minutes, something that you want to convey to the listeners, the watchers who weren't able to attend today.
I really don't have a lot to say, but I am truly thankful to the group. I'm truly thankful to Hang. He's been quite a great friend. He's been checking in, or like almost, it's been every day, probably once or twice. Probably we've missed checking on each other because of being busy or such. And truly, he's been quite a nice person. He's helped me in some hard times, probably. That at times when you feel like you are down, just speaking to him, he gives you encouragement. He's been okay, and thanks to you, Dan, for allowing me in this nice community. It's quite an honor connecting with you, in as much as the geography is like, the distance between us is big. It's quite nice connecting with you people wherever you are, and you've been a blessing. Thank you, everyone.